Welcome back to another episode. I have a very special guest, Dr. Barbara Della Torre. She is a former client of mine, a Western physician, a podcast host, a speaker, soon to be author, and a change maker. She calls herself a health strategist. What I love about Dr. Barbara Della Torre is that she combines Western medicine with Eastern medicine, Eastern philosophy, and just bringing them both together. It's a beautiful way that she actually works with her clients and actually teaches audiences like how other physicians should be approaching medicine so that we can help more people. The point of like her mission here is really to empower people to be their third opinion, their inner third opinion. So stick around because there is a wonderful surprise towards the end, and let's get on to the show. You're listening to Be in Demand, the podcast for honest advice, inspiring stories, and ideas for growing your business by leveraging the expert that you are. I'm your host, Laurie-Ann Murabito, business mentor, and I'm also a reformed painfully shy girl, red wine lover, and exercise enthusiast. Join me as I share how being positioned as the expert in your industry, even if it's a busy one, will help you stand out and be the one in demand to hire and work with. Welcome back to another episode of Be in Demand, and I have a very special guest. She is a private client of mine. We worked together for, a little over a year. And you have just done some amazing, amazing things. But before we get into all of that, why don't you introduce yourself, please?
All right. Well, my name is Barbara Della Torre, and I would describe myself actually as a physician, an artist, a health strategist. And I've been combining my whole journey to do what I'm doing now, which is consulting for people, taking the doctor out of the equation, and being a creative physician.
Being a creative physician. That's what healthcare needs a little bit more of. Absolutely. And we've had a lot of conversations about this. Can you just dive a little bit into, because I really want people to get a sense of your background.
Well, I think the journey, someone had told me this, I think it was, and maybe it was even just in the last week where it took me that long to figure out that, oh yeah, you were made this way. I grew up in different cultures. I was born in Argentina. The past generations have come from other countries. So I have that background, multiple languages. I came from a background of visual arts. That was my first career. And my mother was a physician, so I couldn't take the doctor out of the blood. And so I became a physician, and it was reluctant because I wanted to be creative. And so I studied Chinese medicine, as well as family medicine and a movement-based therapy called Qigong. So putting it all together, This is who I am today. And as a result of that, I realized that I'm a systems thinker, which makes it all fit together.
Yeah. Oh, yes, definitely. I love the way that you think, and, to learn a little bit more about how Dr. Barbara Della Torre thinks, you can definitely go listen to season 3 of her podcast, which is one that she is quite proud of. And so am I. I'm just, I'm loving it. And it's only just started, but by the time that this episode actually comes out, the season will probably be finished. But it really is a piece of work, a piece of art from you. So let's kind of go back to before you started working with me, before you reached out to me. Where was your business?
Okay, so this is BLA, before Laurie-Ann?
Before BLA.
Okay. A very clear distinction. So before I started working with you, I had actually been through 2 types of coaching. So you were the third coach that I've worked with, and all were great. I just make the distinction that at the time I was about to start working with you, I had reached a wall. And that sometimes happens where it's not a failure when you're working with someone and it's time to move on, because I was changing. And I thought originally I was going to work one-on-one with individual clients from the very beginning. I was working in corporate medicine, and then I took about a year to work on a podcast. Actually, I think it was last year I just started the podcast. Now I'm actually remembering it. and it'd been into just the beginning of season 2. And my coach that I was working with dropped me like a hot potato. So that I have to disclose, because that's exactly how I found you. The way I found you was not the way you would think, where
No.
you marketed and I was on that marketing, the end of that marketing. No, it was actually the universe. I'm going to call it the universe, because I was working with a coach who was helping me with producing a podcast, like learning how to do that. And I was picking it up so quickly that I was learning to do a lot of stuff on my own. And once she realized, and she had mentioned to me, she says, "Do you need me for anything?" And I said, "Well, I do, but I like the work. I like the production." And so next thing I know, I got an email saying, "You're no longer really an ideal client for me." Like, it was kind of like a Dear John letter. And
Oh,
there wasn't even a conversation. And I think as a result of not having any time to really think or prepare to transition, that's how I found you. I started searching on something called, remind me of this one, Laurie-Ann. It's the podcast where you look up different
Listen
podcasts.
Notes.
Listen Notes. Exactly. I was looking at Listen Notes to look for where I could be a guest on a show, since I was producing my podcast. And I found yours. And unbeknownst to you, I actually only listened to about 5 minutes of your podcast, of one episode. That was it. And then I realized, oh my God, I have to talk to her. It was how you sounded, how you came across. And I just thought I'd take a chance, because I was looking for something different. I wanted to do more than just produce a podcast. I wanted to get out into the world in some way. And I had spoken before, but I saw that you had that niche, that you could help people with speaking, with marketing, with business. And it just seemed like a great combination.
Wonderful. So where would you say your business was? You had a podcast. Were there, were you actively speaking, working with clients? You were sort of like if I remember correctly, like in this area of limbo.
It was definitely an area of limbo. I had started off the ground with, I hit the ground running with working with a couple of individual clients, and then everything stopped, because I was focusing on the podcast and the promotion aspect of the podcast. And that was what my former coach was telling me, that she could market and that we could work on this. I was going about it the wrong way, as it turns out. And I learned that from you, because I just started to see more people listening and less people engaging and working with me. And I just thought, what is going on? And I had to do something about that. And that's why I wanted to talk to you, because you had a business strategy and you had the experience.
Yeah, and I remember our initial conversation.
Oh, you do?
Oh yeah, I do. I remember the questionnaire. Like, you just were so thoughtful in your answers, and like I immediately was like, wow, this woman has something so special to share with the world, and more people need to hear her message. And I do remember, like, I made you an offer. And you were like, I just need to think about it. And you went to play golf. You were like, I will tell you, I will email you by tomorrow. Right. But I think you did, like, after, you were going to play some golf. Mm-hmm. And true to your word, you were like, yep, send me everything. Let's move forward.
I think that was the last time I played golf too. I'm not kidding. Because you
hopefully
kept me busy. You kept me
busy. Yes. And now you're getting busier, but you definitely need to, I hope that you guys have better weather out there this fall to play some golf.
Yeah.
Lord knows out here, we've had a lot of rain. So what made you say yes? Do you remember? Because I know it was a while ago.
I remember I do remember keeping my word. That was the one thing I did, which I tend to do. But I remember.
And I was very impressed with that. That was also like another, like, all right, that's a good sign too. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought the timing, I'm the kind of person that ever since I've gone more with the flow in life, that there's no such thing as accidents. I mean, you can call them happy accidents, according to some people, but I would say that it was your personality, for one, your positive attitude, your approachability, your encouragement, but also you had this container of, look, we've got a plan here. This is what we're going to do in the next 6 months. And you really laid it out really well. I remember that because I had 2 other coaches before and they would lay out plans, but this one definitely just resonated with what I needed at that moment when we started working together. That's what made me say yes.
And a lot of times I feel like in the coaching space, a lot of people just wait for like, well, whatever the client brings to the call. And for the most part, like I will do that. But I also let people know, like, if you don't know what you want to work on, like I always have, I've always got a plan because I keep those goals. Like, where are we headed? And I always want to make sure that we are moving in that direction, so that procrastination doesn't get in the way. Like sometimes, something hard comes up. So it's like, well, maybe I'll just not mention this hard thing anymore so that we can move in a different direction. And again, like I try to keep eyes on the target.
And I remember also, I shared with you everything, but not everything at the time I started working with you. I shared with you that I had a recent, drop in coaching and needed to fill in that void, but also just how I wasn't feeling great at the time. And I think that was, I just couldn't communicate that because I wanted to just, say, let's just work on the coaching. But there was so much involved in that moment that I just knew I was either going to move forward to work with you or I was going to stop.
Ready to get positioned as the expert, attract perfect clients, and monetize your authority? Well, speaking is the fastest way to grow your business while building know, like, and trust. Having a speech will attract the perfect clients to you and get you rebooked again and again. So if you're ready to craft a speech that is compelling, captivating, and most importantly, converting, then get on the waitlist for In-Demand Signature Speech, where you'll learn my step-by-step process to build a speech that gets your audience's attention, explains why you're the expert to keep listening to, share immense value while subconsciously addressing the objections your audience is thinking and feeling, so that when you share the next step, it's a no-brainer for them to say yes. Let's get your presentation ready for you to deliver with confidence. Stop wasting time, energy, and money building a business the hard way. Join the waitlist for In-Demand Signature Speech at speakandstandout.com/SS.
There was no choice. I always wanted to move forward. So there was no other way. It was either keep going and find someone who has more clarity of what I want to do. Because there's different kinds of coaching. I mean, you say the word coach. I mean, right?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
it's ubiquitous and it's overused and it's loaded term. You're doing more than coaching. You bring that skill that's authentic, but you also have this experience that I knew just from listening to the podcast, reading your website, but just talking to you, you had the experience. That was important to me, that someone could walk the walk and guide me in that way. And you could steer me in that way. And I was actually more impressed with the second 6 months. So
Really? Say more about that.
Oh, yeah.
And I also consider myself to be like, I call myself like a coach consultant because I think as I had shared with you at one point, you're going to ask me a question. Like coaching is asking questions so that the client can come up with the answer for themselves. But there's stuff like you'll come to me and say, well, what do I ask in a pre-event meeting? Well, I'm not going to ask you questions. I'm just going to this is where the consultant in me or the strategist comes out. And I just want to tell you what the answer is because that's why you hired me.
Yeah, and there's only 30 minutes before the talk.
Right.
I know. I was like,
right.
Voxer this, that messaging app. I love that one, by the way. But the second 6 months was building. It's exactly and you fulfilled your promise. You said, work with me another 6 months because I wasn't sure if I could afford to work with you. That's a big objection that people have, and it's a valid one. But I was investing in myself at the same time. I had also shared with you, I finally shared with you why I was so hesitant, because I felt like I was burned the last time. And
Right.
I needed this to really stick. I was running out of time. I had saved money to build this business, going from a very stable career to suddenly just, I mean, completely taking a 360 in my career.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that you said, this is what we're going to work on. It's not the same as the last 6 months. That was important to me because I was different. I had learned, and to just press repeat wasn't enough for me. So you did more, and you did exactly what we talked about, which was the marketing piece.
Yeah.
Actually
And you
starting to make money. That was actually really important to me.
yes, well, it should be. You're in
Perfect.
business.
Yeah.
And you're doing really, really well now.
Oh,
And
thank
it's
you.
almost like you found your place and you were like, this is what I was meant to be doing. And we'll dive into that. Actually, well, yeah, just share with people like what you're doing now.
I am, instead of being a typical doctor, which I've had over 20 years of experience doing this in
Mhm.
both Chinese medicine and Western medicine, instead of just bringing someone in a room or telling people, counseling people as a physician or consulting with them, I wanted to take the doctor out of the equation. And I wanted people to tap into their own inner doctor. And really, the state of the way the healthcare system is what led to this. For years, I've
Yeah.
been watching, and second generation, my mother was a physician too. For generations, I've been watching that we are losing a grip
Mhm.
on good healthcare. We've not had it for
Yes.
many years. It's getting worse. COVID didn't cause it. And you can take that out because I know you can't put COVID in there.
We'll go
Maybe.
beep.
Well, let's just say this. I'll reframe. We know that healthcare has not worked for a long time. And sometimes when the healthcare system gets taxed, like when a lot of people are getting sick at the same time, say in the last 3 years, it's just revealing the flaws that were already there. The cracks in the wall were there.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And I really believe firmly, as someone who's been in the system for many years and tried even in leadership to change the system, that you cannot change the system without changing the fundamental, the lowest of the lowest hierarchy in the whole system. It's built on many, right? So if you think of individuals as the lowest level,
Mm-hmm.
every system, in order to be really great, has to serve the lowest level. If it doesn't serve the lowest level, it's not a good system.
And this is your systems coming out.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't help it. I can't help it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I mean by the system, just for your audience, what a complex system can be: a person, a tree, a organization, a government, a hospital. But
Mm-hmm.
what makes a system is you have these elements, and then they interact with each other, and they achieve a goal or something. That's all it is. And if you don't have a system serving the lowest level, like let's say our body's not serving our organs in the right way, we're not treating our organs well, we're not going to be well. If we don't serve people in the best way by teaching them to be the best they can be and their own doctors, we're not doing good healthcare. So
And
that's why.
that's yeah. And I guess what I want to make sure that people understand is like you go to your doctor and they have hundreds of patients that they probably see in a week. And
Yeah.
that's very different from what you're doing because you only work with one or two people at a
Or
time
at
per
a time,
month.
or a small, yeah, 1 to 2 people a month
Mm-hmm.
individually. And I offer different services for that. But I also teach, occasionally will teach classes. I give professional speeches. Thanks to you, I'm doing better
Yes.
at negotiating at that. And it's just such a different experience to have lots more time to work with someone, to lay everything on the table that has to do with their health. And it's not just lab tests. It's not just an x-ray or a report or a diagnosis. It's who they are. It's where they come from, what foods they eat, the people they're around. It's everything, because you can't separate from your environment. But I don't get that chance as a physician in a hospital to do that. And these poor guys, these guys and gals, these people, these doctors are not able to do what they really want to do. And most people go into medicine because they want to help people. I'm serious. It's not a cliche. It's the real deal. By the time they get out of their medical training, they're already burned out.
Yeah. I mean, from my time, in healthcare, I agree. They go into medicine because they want to be caretakers and they want to help heal people. And then you're right. Like, they get burnt out. Then they realize, oh, it's not me it's insurance companies. It's all this red tape. And unfortunately, and that's what you're trying to teach people is like, listen to your intuition, listen to your body.
Listen to your body. And I even wrote this. Can I share what I wrote in my show notes for today's podcast?
Yes.
Okay, which will not be today by the time this airs, but in season 3, episode 2, I'm going to read. It's a passage from an ancient classic in Chinese medicine where they talked about ancient physicians were talking about people back then. So in their time, it was way back then. So they said that people understood the principle of balance as represented by transformation of the energetics of the universe or nature. So they did exercises, they would eat a balanced diet, they would wake up and go to bed at regular hours, they would avoid overstressing their bodies and minds, and they would refrain from overindulgence. And I'm going to tell you, like, who does that? Nobody does that. Nobody does that. And because we're not paying attention to the elephant in the room, which is you. If you don't take care of you, no one else will do as good of a job. Nobody.
100%. We can't be relying on other people. It's nobody's job to take care of me except me.
No, you should never be a burden on anyone, period. Mm-hmm. That's the bottom line. And it's very difficult for people to even say that. Doctors are afraid of saying that for fear of being reprimanded, because our system is in a setting where it's supposed to be passive aggressive, and we're supposed to serve you up something so that we can keep serving you up and keep making money serving you this.
Yes.
Well, there's not enough doctors to do that. And I, as an artist and a physician, I think there's always another way to do it. And as a systems thinker, you can step outside the little convenient box we have. And this is why I stepped into this business of consulting, but also creating. So it doesn't stop. I can still be an artist doing this.
And let's talk about, let's definitely talk about you being the artist. Again, somebody who came from healthcare, and I have attended many conferences, grand rounds, because I had to maintain my own credits for my own license. And as a speaker, I was just like, we started working together, and you would like show me your present. This is what I have so far. I'd be like, who are you? Like, you're not a doctor.
Do you remember when you told me, you said, you're funny. You're actually funny. I was just, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait a minute. I guess I remember you had something in it's your signature in demand speech course where you talk about humor, but we hadn't gone over that yet. And so then when I shared with you that for example, I wanted to do a detective cold case file.
Yes.
And this was about a medical doctor in history. It was a history lecture. And I was just saying, we're going to be true detectives here. And we're going to do this. And so you liked it, which was great.
It was fantastic. You are definitely can see the artist in you, and like how you bring your creativity into a presentation. I remember, that first presentation that we were putting together, the history one, I was just like, and when you think about, like, you're going to talk about medical history. I mean, that can be a dry topic, but you sprinkle it with so much humor. And also it's just like, it's so interesting. Like, you just have a theme to it, like the detective. And I was just like, who would like, this is not like, you are going to blow the socks off all of the doctors that are in the audience. Because this is not, you're not your regular medical speaker.
Isn't that a relief?
It is. Well, yes, because then people pay attention, because you maintained their attention. And yes, I think that funny was about the chicken dinner. That was the one thing that I heard it. I heard it so many times as you were practicing, and you sent me, like, here's the video from me from, like the presentation, because I'll review that and watch it. And every time you brought up that chicken joke, I still laughed.
Yeah, you
even though I knew it was there
every single time, even now.
Yes, because you are just a breath of fresh air. And one of the things that I believe with speaking is that you have to have your personality in there. Like, your people in your audience should be able to, like, if you gave them a quiz, like, list 3 things about the speaker, that they should be able to, like, figure that, like, humor, creativity, and, you're passionate about people leaving with information and using that information, not just getting a CME.
That's right. And I think, well, one of the things I love about working with you is that you were able to help me bring that back out, because that's something that got squashed. Really crushed. Working in the healthcare system, it's not okay to be a creative person. It's not okay to be different. And I'm talking about the status quo. So part of our work together, honestly, it was in crafting a good speech. And you've got skills. I gotta say, you've got really good skills.
Thank you.
You should do this more often. But you really gave me my voice back. So it wasn't, I'm was speaking before, and a lot of people who start to work with you have various levels of speaking before they work with you. You're doing, that's where that nuance is, that art is that you do, where you were finding out what was holding me back from being the best speaker I could be. And think that's part of what we worked on.
And
not just the technique, but the context,
Yeah, that just makes my heart sing, because everybody has a story, whether they realize it or not, and everybody has a voice. And to hear you say, like during our work together, it brought more of your voice out that had probably been, quieted down, silenced while you were in healthcare, and you just have come out and just, I can't sit quiet about this anymore. And you're just helping, you're by working with like a couple of clients at a time, because, for anybody who's listening to this, you probably think, like, really only a couple of people? She puts so much work into what she does. Yes, a lot.
I'm all in. Like, that's it. I actually just started, you'd be proud of me. Just yesterday, we talked about this, where you said, good for you to kind of offer some other tier services. So I just am about to have a contract signed where a client's going to work with me on a lower tier service, but still one-on-one, not that all in, but showing up, and working from meeting to meeting, more like coaching, but something where it fits and resonates with her. But what you're talking about, the 1-2, man, it's all in. I get a lot of information from people, and I have to assimilate all of that, put it all together where it's meaningful. I don't want to do a bad job.
No. And you can tell, because you've been doing this for a few months now, and like your clients are referring other people. This is the way that you wanted to grow your business, was by word of mouth. And you can see it. It's not going to be long that you're going to have a waiting list, people that are going to be willing to wait, 3 to 4 to 5 months just so that they can work with you, because of the results that they're going to see other people having. Which, by the way, little plug for her podcast. Definitely listen to season 3, and you'll be able to experience what it's like to be basically a fly on the wall, watching her work, and or hearing it. You can can you watch your podcasts?
I'm actually going to make that available on my YouTube channel, which is Third
Okay.
Opinion MD. Instagram is Third Opinion MD. The website is thirdopinionmd.org. I mean, it's pretty easy to remember once you get the hang of one of them.
Yes. Yes.
But
And all of that's going to be in our show notes so that people can definitely click on and go listen to this particular season and definitely follow you and learn a little more information. But was there any, like, is there any, like, this was the best part of working together?
oh, that's tough. That's like you ask me what's my favorite movie,
Which I've
which
asked.
which you've already asked, yeah, at some
Yeah.
point. That I think the best part, there is no best part. The best part is being able to work with you, period.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, oh, it's because you do this or that. You show up where I'm at. You're meeting me where I'm at. I've noticed that. And when I was working on sort of reflecting on how we worked together in this first 6 months and the second 6 months, it's just been growing. It's like a really growing collaboration. And I don't, and the adaptability, I think, is the other thing. Because I was running into, as it happens with any entrepreneur, though it doesn't feel like it when you're the entrepreneur, you think everyone else is successful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here thinking, imposter syndrome, which you have to tamp down every once in a while, like daily. But when
Yes.
it's getting better. For me, it's getting better and faster to be able to do that. And I don't even have some days with that anymore. That's a big change. But I
Yeah.
just remember, if something didn't work and then I would try something else, you were right there. That's my favorite part. I think it's the ability to be there where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
But
Thank you
just
for
working
that.
with you is
Yeah.
delightful.
And I know that you mentioned earlier about the Voxer. Did you enjoy, and Voxer I use, for anybody who's listening, just a point of communication in between our sessions.
Yeah, that was totally fun. One of the reasons why I liked it, and I actually use it with my clients now, is that it could be a separate messaging app where I'm not distracted by everybody else messaging me. So
Mm-hmm.
the only thing I use Voxer for is business. That's it.
Yeah.
And because and also you can leave walkie-talkie messages even with a free account. You just don't keep your messages for more than I think 30 days.
Yeah. Something like that.
I got a pro account because I got to hear you again. Sometimes I have to hear you. Sometimes you have a lot of good advice in one audio walkie-talkie recording. And
Yeah.
once I hear that, so yeah, I have a pro account. I have no regrets. I love it. And that way I can go back, take notes.
It's like the best, I think, what, $20 or something? I can't
Oh,
remember if
it's
it's
nothing.
20 or $40. I don't remember,
Yeah,
but I
get
think
rid of
it's such a great investment. And I do, I want clients to have access to me. If you're one of my private clients, you should be able to, like, you don't have to send an email and get lost in the emails
Oh yeah,
inbox. It's like, come directly to me. And I love the being able to talk because you get to practice some
I
of the
did.
different parts of your presentation.
I got to practice my presentation. I got to leave you messages of like serious self-doubt. I got to, share wins that I had and celebrations. I got to recall a message and say, I can't talk yet. I mean, there's just the neat thing about Voxer is that it's versatile and it feels more connected than a
Yes.
typical message. So I really appreciate that. That was a
Yeah.
cool feature to work with.
Good. I'm glad that you enjoyed that. And what if somebody like asked you like, "Hey, what do you think about working with Laurie?" And like, what's that little piece of advice that you would say to them?
Start packing your stuff because you're going to get going. I mean, that's what I would say. You have a lot of energy, and once they find out you were, may I share? Once they find out you were a fitness instructor, I'm like, you better pack your bags. Like it's going to be a ride and a good one. This investment, that's the thing. It's important that people invest in themselves, and
Mm,
I consider working with you 100% doing that.
wonderful. Thank you. It has been such a joy actually working with you. I've just seen you just blossom. You show up with so much more confidence now than just like you said, like that first 6 months that we worked together.
Oh, Yeah.
You know, like, you know, it was just like, hey, I got this speech. I got, you know, I want to speak more. And I feel like from our first 6 months through our second 6 months, you found your calling. Like you just found like, this is how I want to serve people, you know, more classes, more programs, more speaking. And now you know how to craft an unbelievable speech and
I do, and
negotiate.
not have to reinvent it every time. That was the other thing.
Mm.
I will never forget. Repurpose. What are you doing? Repurpose. It makes so much sense to me that actually today, the show notes that I made is going to turn into a blog. So I'm already repurposing
Good.
today, and we'll send that out. And so that's going to be
Good.
another, yeah,
Yeah,
to
you
just
just have to
share some
keep
more details.
repurposing. It's
Yeah.
not just your speech, you know, little snippets of your podcast, you know, like
Mhm.
you get to just repurpose because, you know, here's just my belief is that people consume information in all different ways. And so to be able to just not expect people to go to your podcast, which by the way is a beautiful form of speaking, not just go to your podcast, you know, but now you've got like the show notes that you're using, you can use as an email or an Instagram post or over on LinkedIn, just or even a blog, as you said. That's fantastic. That makes me so happy.
And the other thing I want to share, if I may, with working with you, my podcast style, not my style, but how I podcast, my intent with podcasting has changed. I mean, it was to draw business and to share with the world and to offer a free tiered service. That was always my intent.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I was missing was marketing, like real marketing. You know, the idea that the content of the podcast does not have to, like, for example, what I'm doing with season 3, it's all thanks to you, because I would have never dreamed of pulling the curtain back or in just working with clients in general and talking about it, because it felt, before working with you, it felt too selfish. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah.
It felt too selfish because as an artist and as a physician, there's almost like two people that may not get along. And
Mm-hmm.
this was a way to have them work both together, that the artist in me and the physician in me could both have a podcast that's artful, but also a good marketing tool and also a gift for
Yeah.
people to listen to. So it's not necessarily, if no one hires me from listening to that, that's okay. I'm drawing the people that want to work with me. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about sale. It's about, let me just show you what I'm doing. And
Yes.
you were able to help me with that. Before it was, I would just say, if you want to leave a review, that would be really nice. It's not even, it's so far from that now. Now I've got a newsletter. I've got, I'm really, really telling people more than once and emailing them and telling them, leave a review. This helps me. I produce and edit and do all of it. I don't have anybody doing any of this right now. And I have no shame in that. And I think there shouldn't have been shame in there in the first place. So you've taught me that.
Mm-hmm. You love doing it.
I
It's
love
part of
doing
it.
it.
It just taps into your creativity. And
Totally.
when and when anybody listens to your podcast, I mean, they're just like, keep in mind, she did all the editing. I mean, it is
All of it.
so beautifully done.
Thank you.
And I'm also going to share down below in the show notes a link so you can even see the beautiful testimonial video that she created for me. That when I saw it, which you showed in the beginning of one of our sessions together, I was blushing. But again, it was so you. It's
Yeah.
just
To the listeners, she had no idea. She had no idea. She thought I was making a video that was just about, like, I don't know, something promoting my own,
yeah,
speech that I made in the past. No, I said, I just have this little video I want to show you and
yeah.
kind of see. And you'd
It
been pushing
was
me to, you're sort of like, hey, will you just tell me, how am I doing, or what, share like a testimonial. She thought I was going to give her like a little, I don't
written
know.
blurb.
Yeah. A written blurb or even just 5 minutes of talking.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's a
Oh no.
production.
This was a production, yes. So I'll definitely make sure that people see that also because it's a beautiful piece of art.
Thank you. And
Literally
it's sincere.
art.
And it's sincere.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with my audience, the experience of working together. It has been just such a pleasure to work with you and to see the beautiful work that you're doing with patients now. And you're going to be speaking and entertaining audiences for years to come. And just one more time, if you would just share with my listeners where they can find you.
You can find all of my work on my website at thirdopinionmd.org, Instagram, thirdopinionmd, and the podcast is Third Opinion MD Podcast.
Yes. Thank you very much. Until next week, everyone, just go be in demand. Are you ready to leverage speaking as your best form of marketing? There are over 7,500 events looking for speakers every single day. Speaking positions you as the expert in the room, but you probably don't know where to start. So I created this great resource called the Directory of Places to Speak. This resource will help you get started today. So head on over to speakandstandout.com/directory to grab your free copy now. Don't miss this opportunity to be the expert speaking to audiences filled with your ideal clients.